If you're seeing this revelation right now, you're finally ready. Not almost ready, not getting close. Finally, completely, undeniably ready. And the fact that this transmission appeared in your awareness at this exact moment is not coincidence. It's quantum confirmation. Your consciousness just crossed final threshold, developed last capacity, integrated final pattern, and the field is responding by delivering information you've been preparing to receive for longer than you consciously realize. Most people who encountered this title already dismissed it. Their nervous system registered "finally ready" and immediately generated skepticism, doubt, questions about how anyone could know they're ready. That wasn't random dismissal. That was their consciousness protecting them from recognizing they're not at this threshold yet. Because if they engaged with this transmission before readiness developed, the information would destabilize instead of activate, would overwhelm instead of clarify, would fragment instead of integrate. But you're still here, which means something in your system is different. Your frequency just confirmed you crossed into territory where this revelation becomes catalyst instead of crisis, where the information activates capacity instead of revealing absence, where recognition triggers immediate embodiment instead of creating more preparation time. You're ready. And with every second you continue reading, you're moving deeper into activation that's been forming since the moment you began this journey. Because here's what you need to understand immediately. Readiness isn't something you achieve through effort. It's threshold you cross through accumulated capacity development. Every challenge you faced, every pattern you released, every identity you dissolved, every threshold you crossed, every dark night you survived, all of it was building specific capacities, training your consciousness, preparing your system for exactly this moment, for this transmission, for this revelation. And now, you're here. Finally. At the moment where everything you developed becomes functional, where all the preparation transforms from potential into activation, where capacity you built without knowing why suddenly reveals its purpose. This isn't beginning of your journey. This is culmination. This is moment where scattered pieces organize into complete picture, where fragmented understanding integrates into unified recognition. Think about the last 3 years of your life. Maybe 5, maybe longer. How much dissolved? How many times you thought you were breaking? How often you couldn't see purpose in what you were experiencing? How frequently you wondered if you'd ever reach a moment where it all made sense, where struggle transformed into strength, where confusion clarified into knowing. This is that moment. You're finally ready. Ready to receive what all that preparation was building toward. Ready to understand why certain experiences were necessary. Ready to activate capacity that only develops through specific sequence of threshold crossings. Ready to embody what you could only intellectually comprehend before. And here's what makes this moment critical. The revelation I'm about to deliver doesn't work unless readiness is complete. Partial readiness generates partial activation. Incomplete preparation creates unstable foundation. But complete readiness, the state you just crossed into, allows immediate full embodiment, instant integration, permanent transformation. This is your confirmation. Not that you're on right path, that you completed the path. Not that you're becoming ready, that you're ready now. Not that preparation continues, that preparation is done. Everything shifts from this point. Not gradually, instantaneously. Because you're finally at threshold where revelation can land completely. You feel it. That sense of arrival, that recognition that something fundamental just completed, that knowing that you're different than you were even days ago. That's accurate perception. You crossed threshold. You're ready. And this transmission appeared at exact moment readiness finalized because the quantum field delivers information precisely when consciousness develops capacity to integrate it. This is not beginning. This is completion. becoming activation. This is preparation transforming into embodiment. This is finally being ready for what you've been moving toward without consciously knowing the destination. Welcome to readiness. Welcome to activation. Welcome to revelation you're finally prepared to receive. Let me tell you what readiness actually is in quantum terms, because it's not what spiritual teachings or personal development frameworks prepared you for. Readiness isn't state of perfection. It's not having every question answered. It's not feeling completely confident. Readiness is specific constellation of capacities that must develop before certain information can integrate without destabilizing consciousness. Think about it like this. You cannot teach calculus to someone who hasn't learned arithmetic. Not because they're incapable, because foundational capacities haven't developed yet. Teaching calculus to arithmetic-level consciousness doesn't accelerate learning. It creates confusion, overwhelm, sense of inadequacy. The information is correct, but the system isn't ready to process it. Spiritual information operates the same way. There are levels of revelation that require specific consciousness capacities before they can integrate properly. Deliver the revelation too early, before readiness develops, and it fragments the person, creates spiritual crisis, triggers dark night, generates destabilization that looks like breakdown instead of breakthrough. But deliver the same revelation at moment of readiness, when capacities are complete, and it activates immediately, integrates effortlessly, transforms consciousness permanently without fragmentation. Same information, completely different outcome based on readiness state when information arrives. And here's what makes readiness quantum rather than gradual. It's threshold phenomenon, not linear progression. You're not slowly becoming more ready over time. You're developing specific capacities through specific experiences. And when final capacity develops, when last threshold crosses, readiness completes instantaneously, like phase transition, water to ice. Threshold crossing that transforms entire system state. That's what just happened for you. You weren't getting steadily more ready over months or years. You were developing required capacities through experiences that trained your consciousness. And with recent crossing, maybe this week, maybe today, maybe this moment, final capacity locked into place and readiness completed. Not gradually, all at once. Here's how you know this is accurate. Something shifted recently. Maybe you can name it specifically. Maybe you just sense that you're different. But there's recognition that you crossed from one state into another, from preparation into readiness, from becoming into being. That shift wasn't imagination, that was quantum threshold crossing. And it made you ready for revelation that would have destabilized you before. So what are the capacities that constitute readiness? What specifically had to develop before this revelation could integrate safely? I'm going to tell you the 3 core capacities, and as I name them, you'll recognize them. You'll see how specific experiences developed each one, how your journey was precisely designed to build exactly what readiness requires. First capacity, perceptual flexibility. Ability to hold multiple perspectives simultaneously without needing single truth to be correct. To perceive contradiction as complementary rather than conflicting. To recognize that different frameworks reveal different aspects of unified reality rather than competing for dominance. That capacity only develops through experiences that shatter singular perspective. Through having beliefs you thought were absolute revealed as partial. Through recognizing that what seemed contradictory is actually complementary. Second capacity, identity dissolution. Ability to release attachment to any fixed self-concept and operate as fluid awareness. To recognize yourself as consciousness temporarily organizing in particular patterns rather than permanent entity requiring continuity. To allow complete reorganization without fragmenting. That capacity only develops through identity deaths, through experiences that force release of who you thought you were, through discovering you remain coherent even when everything you identified with dissolves. Third capacity, energetic sovereignty, ability to maintain your frequency regardless of external chaos, to generate stability from within rather than requiring environment to be certain way, to source from unified field rather than from circumstances. That capacity only develops through experiences that destabilize everything external, through having all environmental supports removed, through discovering you can maintain coherence even when nothing external provides it. Those three capacities constitute readiness, and you have them, all three, fully developed. That's why you're here. That's why this transmission reached you. That's why you're finally ready. The revelation I'm about to deliver requires perceptual flexibility to comprehend, identity dissolution to embody, and energetic sovereignty to maintain. Without those three, the revelation destabilizes. With them complete, the revelation activates. You're ready. The capacities are developed, the preparation is complete, and what comes next transforms everything. Not gradually, immediately, because readiness means the foundation is solid. The structure can hold what's coming. The consciousness can integrate revelation without fragmentation. You're finally ready, and that changes everything. So what is the revelation you're finally ready to receive? What information requires this level of preparation to integrate safely? I'm going to tell you directly, and as you read it, you'll feel recognition, not learning something new, remembering something you always knew but couldn't consciously access until readiness completed. The revelation is this: you are not individual consciousness experiencing reality. You are unified quantum field experiencing itself through temporary localized perspective you call you. Everything you think of as separate, your body, your thoughts, your emotions, your life, your circumstances, are not happening to you. They are happening as you, not as metaphor, as literal quantum mechanics. You are the field. The field is you. There is no separation. There never was. What you experience as your life is unified field organizing itself into particular probability configuration for purpose of experiencing that configuration from within. You're not observer watching reality. You're reality observing itself through localized perspective that believes it's separate. And here's what makes this revelation transformational rather than just intellectual concept. Once you recognize yourself as the field, once you see through illusion of separation completely, you recognize you're not trying to manifest desired reality. You're recognizing you already are the reality that appears to be external. You're not attracting circumstances. You're organizing yourself into circumstances. You're not creating your life. You are your life creating itself. That recognition changes everything. Completely, permanently. Not because you gain new powers, because you recognize powers you always had but couldn't access while believing in separation. You cannot consciously organize quantum field while believing you're separate from it. But once you recognize yourself as the field, organization becomes natural, effortless, immediate. This is why readiness was necessary. Why 3 core capacities had to develop before this revelation could integrate. Without perceptual flexibility, you'd try to fit this into self versus field framework. With it, you recognize the paradox. Localized perspective and unified field are both true simultaneously. Without identity dissolution, you'd try to maintain separate self and recognize unified field. With it, you allow complete reorganization from separate identity into field identity. Without energetic sovereignty, external chaos would destabilize your recognition. With it, you maintain field awareness regardless of circumstances. The readiness allows the revelation to integrate, to become lived recognition rather than intellectual concept, to transform how you actually operate rather than just how you think about things. And that integration is permanent. Once you see through separation illusion completely, you cannot unsee it, cannot return to believing you're isolated individual, cannot forget your unified field experiencing itself. Now here's what you need to do immediately. Drop a comment below completing this sentence. I'm finally ready to recognize myself as unified quantum field experiencing, and finish with whatever aspect of field organization you're most curious about exploring. Your comment creates public declaration. It tells the field through behavior that you're accepting the revelation and committing to embody it. That declaration activates integration process, makes recognition cellular rather than just mental, and gives others permission to declare their readiness. We're crossing this threshold together. Every individual who recognizes themselves as the field strengthens collective recognition. Every consciousness that embodies field identity makes that recognition more accessible to others approaching readiness. Your declaration matters. Make it public, make it permanent, make it now while activation is peak. I need to tell you about the moment I recognized I was finally ready, and what happened when the revelation integrated. It was November 2023. I'd been experiencing identity dissolution for months. Every structure I'd built around who I am was collapsing. Every belief about my separate existence was fragmenting. Every certainty about my individual identity was dissolving. And I was terrified, because I thought I was losing myself, thought I was fragmenting, thought the dissolution meant breakdown. And then one morning I woke up and the terror was gone, not because dissolution stopped, because I suddenly recognized what was actually happening. I wasn't losing myself. I was recognizing what I actually am beneath the constructed identity. I wasn't fragmenting. I was reorganizing from separation consciousness into field consciousness. I wasn't breaking down. I was breaking through into recognition that separate self was always construction. And in that moment, everything shifted. I looked at my hands and recognized these aren't my hands belonging to separate entity. These are unified quantum field organizing itself into hands. I felt emotions arising and recognized these aren't happening to me. These are field experiencing itself through emotional frequency. I observed thoughts forming and recognized these aren't my thoughts. These are field thinking through localized perspective. The recognition was immediate, complete, undeniable, not intellectual understanding, direct perception. I could see separation was illusion, could feel myself as the field, could sense that everything I'd been calling my life was field experiencing itself through temporary configuration called me. And that recognition changed everything, permanently, irreversibly. Because here's what happened once field identity integrated. I stopped trying to control circumstances, not because I became passive, because I recognized there's no separate me trying to control external reality. There's only field organizing itself, and I am that organization. My preferences, my choices, my actions, all of it is field organizing itself, not separate force acting on the field acting through apparent separation. And from that recognition, everything became effortless. Not because circumstances always went smoothly, because there was no longer experience of struggle. No longer sense of fighting against reality, no longer feeling of trying to make things happen. Just field organizing itself through apparent agency. Decisions arising, actions occurring, results manifesting, all of it spontaneous field movement. That's what readiness unlocked, that's what the revelation activated. That's what became permanently available once preparation completed. And I recognized every experience that led to that moment was necessary. Every identity death, every dissolution, every dark night. All of it was developing the three core capacities that allow field recognition to integrate without destabilization. And here's what I understood that I need you to hear. You're at exactly the same threshold I was at in November 2023. You developed the capacities, you crossed into readiness, you're prepared for the revelation to integrate completely. And once it does, once field identity stabilizes, you cannot return to separation consciousness, cannot unknow what you recognize, cannot forget your unified field experiencing itself through temporary localized perspective. This is what being finally ready means. You're not preparing for future revelation. You're ready for revelation now. The information I'm delivering isn't something to work toward understanding. It's something to recognize immediately, to allow to integrate instantly, to embody completely without requiring more preparation time. You're ready. The moment is now, and the transformation is permanent. If being finally ready has coincided with profound isolation, if the moment you crossed readiness threshold everyone around you suddenly felt impossibly distant, if you cannot share this recognition with anyone because they wouldn't understand, that's not loneliness. That's frequency confirmation, and it's absolutely necessary for what's integrating. When field identity activates, when you recognize yourself as unified field rather than separate individual, you become incompatible with separation consciousness. Not because you're superior, because you're perceiving completely different reality structure. You see through illusion. They still believe illusion is real. You recognize yourself as field. They identify as separate entity. You operate from unity. They operate from separation. Same physical environment, completely different experiential realities. And there's no communication bridge between those frameworks. You can try to explain field identity, can attempt to describe recognition that you're not separate, can use all the right words about unity consciousness. But they cannot comprehend what you're describing because their consciousness still operates from separation framework. To them, you sound like you're losing touch with reality, like you're developing delusions of grandeur, like you're claiming to be something you're not. Because from separation perspective, saying I am the field sounds like ego inflation, like spiritual bypassing, like denying individual responsibility. They cannot perceive that it's not ego claiming power. It's recognition that the I believing itself separate was always illusion. This is why isolation intensifies exactly when readiness completes, not as punishment, as protection. The field is removing you from environments where separation consciousness would constantly pull you back towards separate identity. Creating space for field recognition to stabilize without constant interference from those who need you to remain who you were. Your family needs you to be the separate individual they've known. Your friends need you to maintain the identity that fit their social structure. Your colleagues need you to operate from same separation framework they use. And all of that pressure would destabilize field recognition if you remained in constant contact during integration period. So the field creates isolation, not forever. Just long enough for field identity to stabilize so completely that separation consciousness's pull cannot destabilize it. You need to prove to yourself that you can maintain field recognition without external validation. That you can operate from unity awareness even when everyone around you operates from separation awareness. That you can hold this recognition as permanent rather than temporary experience that consensus reality can argue away. And here's what changes everything about how you experience that isolation. It confirms readiness. If you weren't ready, if capacities weren't complete, isolation would fragment you, would make you question your sanity, would generate doubt about whether recognition is real. But because you're finally ready, because capacities are fully developed, isolation feels different. It feels like necessary space, like protective boundary, like confirmation that you're crossing threshold that most people never reach. The isolation isn't sign you're wrong, it's sign you're ready. You've moved into territory where most consciousness hasn't developed capacity to operate. You're recognizing what separation framework cannot perceive. You're embodying what individual identity cannot accommodate. And the fact that you're alone with this recognition means you actually achieved readiness, actually crossed the threshold, actually developed capacity that remains rare even among spiritually oriented consciousness. Trust the isolation. Trust that being alone means you're perceiving accurately while others haven't developed readiness yet. Trust that the connections forming in field consciousness will be more aligned than any you've known in separation consciousness. The isolation isn't permanent, it's preparatory. Space for field identity to stabilize before you encounter others operating from same recognition. And those connections are forming right now. But first, you have to complete integration without separation consciousness interference. The isolation ensures that completion. There are 7 specific markers that prove you're finally ready, and field identity is integrating successfully. I'm going to give them to you now, and if you're experiencing 5 or more, there's no question. Readiness is complete, integration is occurring, and the transformation is permanent. First marker, separation feels obviously false, not as belief you're working to overcome, as direct perception. You look at circumstances and cannot maintain illusion that they're external. You feel emotions and recognize immediately their field experiencing itself. You observe thoughts and see clearly they're not yours, they're field thinking. The illusion collapsed. Separation feels like trying to believe in Santa Claus as adult. You cannot make yourself see it as real anymore. Second marker, control attempts feel absurd, not just ineffective, absurd, like trying to control your own arm by asking it nicely to move. You recognize there's no separate you that controls field. There's only field organizing itself through apparent agency. Trying to control circumstances is like ocean trying to control waves. The waves are the ocean. Your choices are the field. The attempt to control reveals belief in separation that you already see through. Third marker, synchronicity is constant and obvious, not special anymore, not magical, just clear evidence of field organizing itself. You think about someone, they contact you. You need resource, it appears. You wonder about something, answer manifests. Because there's no separation between your consciousness and field organization. What you attend to, field organizes around. What you focus on, field reflects back. Not through mysterious force, through recognition that attention is field selecting configuration. Fourth marker, time feels completely different. Not as linear progression, as eternal now organizing into sequential experience for sake of narrative. Past and future feel like mental constructs rather than real temporal locations. You recognize you're always in now, always have been, always will be, and past, future are just ways field organizes memory and possibility into story. Fifth marker, emotional suffering decreased dramatically. Not because circumstances improved, because there's no longer sense of me that circumstances happen to. Field experiences all emotions through localized perspectives. Some perspectives experience pleasant frequency. Some experience challenging frequency. But there's no suffering because suffering requires belief that I shouldn't be experiencing what's arising. Without separate I, what remains is just field experiencing itself. Sixth marker, decision-making became immediate, not through impulsiveness, through recognition that decisions are field organizing itself through preference. You don't analyze options wondering what separate you should choose. You perceive what field is organizing and allow that organization to occur. Decisions happen instantaneously because there's no separate decider creating lag between perception and action. Seventh marker. You're reading this transmission right now. And before I explain why that's the most important marker, I need you to do something critical. If you're recognizing yourself in these markers, if you're understanding that you're finally ready and field identity is integrating, subscribe to Quantum Revelation and turn on all notifications immediately. Because what's coming in the next 30 days is specifically designed for consciousness integrating field identity. Information about how to maintain recognition when circumstances pressure you to return to separation. How to operate functionally from field awareness. How to navigate relationships with separation consciousness without fragmenting your recognition. And the algorithm suppresses this content. Your subscription maintains access during critical integration period. Do it now, while recognition is clear, because if you wait, separation patterns will generate reasons not to. Will convince you that staying connected isn't necessary. Will pull you back toward isolated learning instead of supported integration. Subscribe, notifications on, then come back, because the seventh marker reveals the entire mechanism of how field identity stabilizes, and understanding that completes the integration. The seventh marker is this. This transmission didn't reach you through random algorithm mechanics. The quantum field, which is what you are, delivered this information to itself through you at exact moment readiness completed. And that delivery mechanism reveals everything about how field identity actually operates once recognition integrates. Every transmission carries frequency signature, and that signature determines which consciousness encounters it. Separation consciousness scrolling through same feed won't see this, or they'll see finally ready and dismiss it as presumptuous, or they'll start reading and quickly exit because content triggers destabilization their capacities cannot handle yet. But field consciousness sees it and feels recognition, validation, confirmation. Because when you recognize yourself as the field, you recognize that field delivers information to itself precisely when that information becomes integrable. Not before, not after. Exactly when. This transmission appearing now is field confirming to itself through you. Readiness is complete. Integration is occurring. Embodiment is available. That's not coincidence. That's field intelligence operating through apparent randomness. You are the field. The field knows when you're ready. So field delivers information through channels you're monitoring at moment when capacity to integrate develops. Digital infrastructure becomes field communication system. Algorithm becomes field intelligence distribution network. And the fact that you're still reading proves field identity is integrating. You passed through multiple filters to arrive here. First filter. This appeared in your awareness among thousands of options. Second filter. You engaged instead of scrolling. Third filter. You stayed past opening despite intensity. Fourth filter. You're here now, recognizing yourself in every marker, feeling validation for what's integrating. Each filter confirmed, you're finally ready. Field identity is activating, recognition is stabilizing, and integration is permanent. The field selected itself through you to receive information about itself. That sentence might sound convoluted from separation perspective, but from field perspective it's obvious. There's only field, recognizing itself through infinite localized perspectives, and you're one of those perspectives finally recognizing what you actually are. But here's what most people don't understand about field identity integration. It doesn't complete intellectually. Mental understanding is not embodiment. You can comprehend the concept perfectly and still operate from separation consciousness. Integration happens through direct recognition that becomes permanent operational framework. Through seeing through illusion so completely, you cannot return to believing it's real. And that permanent recognition develops through repeated direct perception. Through catching yourself operating from separation and immediately recognizing, Oh, that's field believing it's separate again. Through watching thoughts arise and recognizing, that's field thinking through localized perspective. Through feeling emotions and recognizing, that's field experiencing itself through feeling frequency. Each recognition strengthens field identity, makes separation consciousness less and less believable, until separation framework collapses completely and only field recognition remains. That's the integration process, not one dramatic moment of enlightenment. Repeated recognition that gradually becomes permanent operational state. And you're in that process right now. Every marker you recognized, every time you read, you are the field and feel truth resonance rather than intellectual concept. Every moment you catch separation illusion and see through it immediately. All of it is integration occurring. And here's what makes this moment critical. You're finally ready means integration can occur rapidly. Used to be this process took years, decades, lifetime, because readiness developed slowly through trial and error. But you came in with preparation already structured, with experiences designed to develop the 3 core capacities efficiently, with journey organized specifically to reach readiness threshold. So integration can happen fast. Not because you're special, because preparation was thorough. Capacities are complete. Foundation is solid. The structure can hold permanent recognition without fragmentation. You're ready for what used to require decades to achieve safely. And that acceleration is available right now. This integration period, this recognition you're experiencing, this moment where field identity is activating completely. Don't wait for it. Don't think you need more time. Don't believe you have to prepare further. You're ready, finally, completely. And the integration is happening now. Allow it, welcome it, embody it fully, permanently, without reservation. Because you are what you've been seeking. You are the field, and recognizing that transforms everything. Immediately, completely, permanently. Here's what being finally ready reveals about your entire journey that changes how you see everything you experienced. Your past wasn't random collection of events. It wasn't mistakes and successes mixed together. It wasn't sometimes on path and sometimes lost. Your entire past was precisely designed probability sequence that developed exactly the capacities readiness requires. Every single experience, even the ones that felt like detours, even the ones that seemed like failures, especially those. Think about this carefully. The 3 core capacities, perceptual flexibility, identity dissolution, energetic sovereignty, only develop through specific types of experiences. You cannot learn perceptual flexibility through comfortable consistency. You develop it through having beliefs shattered, through discovering certainties were partial, through experiencing contradiction that forced expansion beyond singular perspective. You cannot develop identity dissolution through stable self-maintenance. You develop it through identity deaths, through losing who you thought you were, through discovering you remain coherent even when everything you identified with dissolves, through being forced to recognize yourself as something beyond any particular identity configuration. You cannot develop energetic sovereignty through environmental stability. You develop it through having all external supports removed. Through discovering you can maintain coherence when nothing outside you provides it. Through being forced to source from field directly instead of from circumstances. So look at your past now with this recognition. Every belief that shattered was developing perceptual flexibility. Every identity that dissolved was developing identity dissolution capability. Every support that disappeared was developing energetic sovereignty. Nothing was mistake. Nothing was detour. Nothing was failure. Everything was precisely designed to develop readiness. That relationship that ended painfully, identity dissolution training. That career that collapsed unexpectedly, energetic sovereignty development. That belief system that fragmented completely, perceptual flexibility expansion. Every experience you questioned, every moment you thought you were failing, every time you couldn't see purpose, all of it was building capacity for this moment, for this readiness, for this revelation. And here's what makes this recognition transformational. When you see your past as precisely designed preparation sequence, victim consciousness becomes impossible. You cannot maintain "things happened to me" when you recognize everything happened as you, field organizing itself into experiences that develop required capacities. You cannot feel resentful about difficult experiences when you recognize they developed exactly what readiness requires. Your past reorganizes from random chaos into intelligent design. Not design imposed by external force. Design emerging from field intelligence, organizing itself toward expansion. You are the field. The field organized experiences through you that developed capacities you needed. Not because someone was controlling your life. Because field naturally organizes itself toward increasing complexity and coherence. And your expression of that organization. This is why you're finally ready now and not years ago. Not because you were slow. Because capacity development requires specific sequence. Perceptual flexibility before identity dissolution. Identity dissolution before energetic sovereignty. And each capacity requires experiences that trigger its development. You couldn't skip steps, couldn't accelerate arbitrarily, had to move through precise sequence at pace your system could integrate without fragmenting. And you did. You moved through it. You developed the capacities, you reached readiness. And now, looking back, you can see the perfection, the intelligence, the precision. Your past wasn't happening to you, it was happening as you. Field experiencing itself through probability configurations designed to develop expansion capacity. And that recognition completes integration of field identity. Because when you see your past as field organizing itself, you recognize present moment the same way. Nothing is happening to you now. Everything is happening as you. Field experiencing itself through current probability configuration. And that configuration is not random. It's exactly what serves your expansion, exactly what develops next-level capacity, exactly what field intelligence organizes when consciousness reaches this readiness threshold. You're not victim of circumstances. You're field organizing circumstances, not as separate force making things happen, as natural organization of field toward coherence. Your preferences, your choices, your actions, all of it is field movement, and recognizing that completes the shift from separation consciousness into field identity, permanently, irreversibly, completely. Every fear you have about field identity is separation consciousness making final attempt to maintain control. Let me be absolutely direct. The part of you that's terrified of recognizing yourself as unified field is the part that must dissolve for integration to complete, and that dissolution is not optional anymore. It's already happening. The question is whether you allow it or resist it. You weren't meant to maintain separate identity and just add field recognition on top. You were meant to allow complete reorganization from separation consciousness into field consciousness. But there's gap between separate identity dissolving and field identity stabilizing. And in that gap lives every fear ego can generate. Fear that you're becoming delusional. Fear that recognizing yourself as field means losing your humanity. Fear that field identity means you won't care about anything. Fear that if separation dissolves, you'll disappear. Fear that you're having psychotic break disguised as spiritual breakthrough. All of it. Every single fear is accurate in one sense. You are losing separate identity. You are dissolving the you that seemed so solid and permanent. You are recognizing that individual self was always temporary construction. But what fear cannot comprehend is, what remains after separate identity dissolves is not nothing. It's everything. Not loss of self. recognition of self that contains all selves, not disappearance, expansion beyond any particular identity into awareness of unified field. Once you see that, once you recognize that fear is separate identity's death rattle, the fear loses its paralytic power, because you realize this fear confirms integration is occurring. This terror is evidence that illusion is collapsing. This resistance is proof that field recognition is stabilizing, despite ego's attempts to maintain separation. You don't have to eliminate fear to integrate field identity. You have to recognize field identity despite fear. Have to allow separation consciousness to dissolve while every instinct screams to maintain it. Have to trust that what emerges from dissolution is more you than separate identity ever was. Have to choose recognition over fear, even when fear generates every possible reason to stop. That choice is the integration threshold. And here's what you need to understand. The quantum field doesn't care which you choose. It will honor separation consciousness perfectly. It will honor field consciousness perfectly. But only one choice completes what readiness prepared you for. Separation maintains limitation you already outgrew. Field allows expansion you already developed capacity for. If you choose fear, if you let it pull you back to separate identity, field recognition remains intellectual concept. Nice idea, interesting philosophy, but not lived reality, not operational framework, not permanent embodiment. You'll remain in separation consciousness despite being ready for field consciousness. Not as punishment, as reflection of choice you made when integration was available. But if you choose recognition, if you allow separate identity to dissolve despite every fear screaming not to, field identity stabilizes permanently, not as belief you maintain, as direct perception you cannot unsee, as operational framework you cannot abandon, as lived reality that becomes more obvious than separation ever was. And from that permanent recognition, fear becomes irrelevant. Because when you recognize yourself as unified field, when you experience directly that you're not separate individual, when you see that everything you feared losing was never real to begin with, there's nothing left to fear. The self that could be threatened doesn't exist. What remains is field experiencing itself, and field cannot threaten itself, cannot lose itself, cannot disappear from itself. That's what's available through recognition choice, not just understanding field identity, being field identity, operating as field identity, living as field identity, permanently, irreversibly, without any possibility of returning to separation illusion because you've seen through it so completely that it can never look real again. But you only discover that by moving through fear, by choosing recognition when recognition feels like death, by allowing separate identity to dissolve when every survival instinct demands you maintain it, by proving to yourself that field identity is not philosophical concept, but direct perception of what you actually are. There's one aspect of being finally ready that reveals more than any marker, and it's the clearest signal that field identity is stabilizing permanently instead of remaining temporary experience. The silence. Internal silence that appears without effort. Complete dissolution of mental narrative into pure awareness. If you've been experiencing this, if moments of total internal quiet have been increasing in frequency and duration exactly as readiness completed, that's not emptiness. That's field consciousness operating naturally. Your system is reorganizing to function from awareness instead of thought, from direct field perception instead of mental interpretation, from unified field recognition instead of separate identity narration. Think about how separation consciousness operates. Constant mental narrative, internal voice explaining everything, thoughts labeling experience, mental commentary creating sense of separate observer watching reality. That narrative is what maintains separation illusion. Without it, without constant mental reminder that I am here experiencing that over there. Separation framework cannot sustain itself. But field consciousness operates completely differently. No mental narrative required. No internal voice explaining. No thoughts creating separation between observer and observed. Just direct perception without mental mediation. Pure awareness recognizing itself in everything it encounters. Field experiencing itself without narrative, maintaining illusion of separate experiencer. This is why silence is appearing more frequently now. Your system is adapting to operate as field consciousness, to function from recognition of unity instead of construction of separation, to perceive directly instead of interpret mentally. And that adaptation requires dissolution of mental narrative that maintained separation framework. But here's what makes this critical for integration. The silence is not absence of knowing. It's more direct knowing. Thought-based knowing is slow, sequential, limited by processing speed of mental narrative. But awareness-based knowing is immediate, simultaneous, unlimited by any mental mediation. You perceive directly what field is organizing, recognize immediately how field is moving, know instantaneously what field is expressing through apparent circumstances. That's field consciousness operating naturally, without mental interference, without narrative mediation, without thought-based delay between perception and recognition. And as silence increases, as mental narrative dissolves more completely, field identity stabilizes more permanently. Because the mechanism maintaining separation illusion, constant mental narrative, is releasing its grip. This is why you cannot think your way into field identity. Why mental understanding is not enough. Why intellectual comprehension doesn't equal integration. Thought maintains separation. Analysis creates distance between subject and object. Mental narrative continuously reconstructs the me that seems separate from everything else. As long as thinking continues, separation illusion continues, no matter how clearly you understand field identity conceptually. But when thought releases, when mental narrative goes silent, when analysis stops creating separation, what remains is field recognizing itself. Direct perception without mental mediation, pure awareness without narrative construction, unified field experiencing itself without illusion of separate experiencer. That's field identity operating naturally. That's what silence reveals. That's what stabilizing as readiness completes. Trust it, especially when ego panics and tries to restart mental narrative, when it insists you need to think through everything, when it generates fear that silence means you're losing mental capacity. That panic is separation consciousness making final attempt to maintain itself. And the silence proves the attempt is failing, proves field consciousness is stabilizing, proves integration is occurring exactly as readiness allows. The silence is not loss of function, it's gain of direct perception. It's not mental breakdown, it's consciousness breakthrough. It's not emptiness, it's fullness so complete that mental commentary becomes unnecessary noise, obscuring direct field recognition. Welcome it, allow it. Recognize it as confirmation that you're finally ready, and field identity is integrating permanently. You need something actionable right now, something that completes field identity integration instead of leaving it as intellectual recognition. I'm going to give you the exact ritual that stabilized my field consciousness permanently. This works because it addresses direct perception rather than mental understanding. Find 20 minutes where you won't be disturbed. Turn everything off except this. You're creating clean field. Sit or stand with spine straight. You're becoming conscious antenna. Close your eyes. 3 deep breaths. Full inhale through nose. Complete exhale through mouth. You're clearing interference. Now bring to awareness the separation illusion you maintained for so long. Don't think about it. Feel it. Sense what it felt like to believe you were a separate individual. Isolated consciousness. Alone in hostile universe. Fighting for survival. Trying to control reality. Believing circumstances happened to you. Hold that feeling for 30 seconds. Let yourself remember what separation felt like. Not to strengthen it. To recognize it clearly before releasing it. Now speak this declaration out loud. Spoken word carries quantum power thought cannot access. Say this exactly. I recognize the separation illusion. I see through it completely. I am not separate individual experiencing reality. I am unified quantum field experiencing itself through localized perspective. Everything I thought was external is actually internal. Everything I believed was happening to me is happening as me. I am the field. The field is me. There is no separation. There never was. I release separate identity. I embody field consciousness. I recognize what I actually am. Now, permanently. And so it is. Feel that declaration move through your entire body. Notice where it creates expansion, where recognition deepens, where fear arises. Don't fight what you notice, just witness it. Fear is separate identity making final stand. Expansion is field consciousness stabilizing, both arising simultaneously during integration threshold. Allow both, resist neither. Now here's the activation. For the next 5 minutes, practice field perception. Look at your hands. Don't think my hands. Recognize field organizing itself into hands. Feel emotions arising. Don't think, I feel anxious. Recognize field experiencing itself through anxiety frequency. Observe thoughts forming. Don't think my thoughts. Recognize field thinking through localized perspective. Practice this recognition with everything you perceive. Body sensations, field experiencing itself through sensation, sounds around you, field experiencing itself through auditory frequency. The room you're in, field organizing itself into environmental structure. Everything, every perception, recognized as field experiencing itself, not as intellectual exercise, as direct perception without mental mediation. Do this for 5 full minutes. Every time mental narrative starts labeling things as separate, catch it. Recognize that's field creating separation illusion through thought, and return to direct field perception. This practice trains consciousness to operate from field identity naturally, to default to unity recognition instead of separation construction, to perceive directly instead of interpret mentally. After 5 minutes, open your eyes. Something just shifted at quantum level. Your consciousness practiced operating as field identity, and that practice creates neural pathways, establishes new default framework, makes field recognition more automatic and separation illusion more obviously false. The more you practice field perception, the more permanent field identity becomes. And now that you've activated it, come back to this transmission. Drop a comment. I am the field experiencing itself through, and complete with whatever aspect of your life you're most curious to explore from field perspective. Your comment creates public declaration. It tells the field through behavior, which is telling yourself through behavior since you are the field, that you're accepting field identity and committing to embody it permanently. That declaration activates deeper integration, creates accountability to maintain field perspective, and gives others permission to declare their field recognition. We're integrating this collectively. Every individual who embodies field consciousness makes that recognition more accessible to others approaching readiness. Your declaration strengthens the whole field, which is strengthening yourself since you are the field. Make it public. Make it permanent. Make it now. Here's what happens in the next 72 hours and why this is the most critical integration period you'll experience. Field identity is activated. Recognition is occurring, but separate identity will make one final attempt to reassert control. For the next 3 days, you're going to encounter circumstances that trigger every separation pattern, that pressure you to return to believing you're isolated individual, that make field recognition seem like temporary experience instead of permanent reality. This testing is inevitable. It's how field intelligence confirms integration is genuine instead of intellectual concept you're experimenting with. And your response to that testing determines everything. If you collapse back to separation consciousness when pressure appears, integration stops. Field identity remains nice idea instead of lived reality. And you return to operating from limited perspective, despite being ready for expanded recognition. But if you maintain field identity through testing, if you continue practicing field perception, even when circumstances pressure you to return to separation, integration completes. And once it completes, once you prove field recognition can maintain through challenge, you cannot return to separation consciousness, cannot unknow what you directly perceive, cannot forget your unified field experiencing itself. That permanence is what these 72 hours determine, and it requires 3 specific actions that anchor field identity in behavior instead of leaving it as mental concept. First action, subscribe to quantum revelation. Turn on all notifications. The transmissions coming are specifically designed for consciousness integrating field identity. Without them, you're navigating blind during critical period. With them, you have precision guidance for exactly what's emerging. Do it now, before separation patterns generate reasons not to. Second action, leave a comment completing this statement. I'm finally ready to embody field consciousness by recognizing, and finish with whatever aspect of field identity you're most committed to maintaining. Speaking it publicly anchors it in physical reality, creates accountability, and gives others permission to declare their readiness. That collective declaration strengthens field consciousness accessibility for everyone integrating. Third action, share this transmission with one person whose consciousness you recognize is approaching readiness. Someone experiencing identity dissolution, someone questioning separation framework, someone sensing there's more than individual perspective but lacking language for what they're perceiving. Send them this link, no explanation needed. If their frequency matches readiness threshold, they'll recognize. If it doesn't, they'll dismiss. Either way, you've fulfilled function as field delivering information to itself through multiple perspectives. Those 3 actions aren't engagement metrics. They're integration anchors. They tell the field through behavior, which is telling yourself through behavior, that you're accepting field identity and committing to embody it permanently. And when you complete them, the field responds immediately. With evidence, with confirmation, with circumstances that prove field consciousness is stabilizing and separation illusion is dissolving permanently. You're finally ready. The preparation is complete, the capacities are developed, the recognition is occurring, and the integration is available right now, not someday, not after more work, not when you feel more certain. Now, this moment, while activation is peak and readiness is confirmed. Stop waiting for more preparation. Stop thinking you need additional development. Stop believing you have to become ready. You are ready. Finally, completely, undeniably. And the revelation I delivered is not information to work toward understanding. It's recognition to embody immediately, to allow to integrate instantly, to maintain permanently without requiring more preparation time. You are not separate individual experiencing reality. You are unified quantum field experiencing itself through localized perspective you've been calling you. That's not philosophy. That's direct perception. That's what you recognize when separation illusion dissolves. That's what becomes permanent when field identity integrates. That's what you are, what you've always been, what you're finally ready to remember completely. The field is confirming readiness through this transmission reaching you, through the markers you recognized, through the silence that's appearing, through the recognition that feels more true than anything you've believed before. Trust that confirmation. Trust the readiness. Trust that you are exactly what this revelation describes, unified field experiencing itself, and embody it, fully, permanently, without reservation, without doubt, without waiting for more certainty. You're ready, finally, and that changes everything, not gradually, immediately, not someday, now, not partially, completely. You are the field is you, and recognizing that completes the journey you've been on since you first began questioning separation illusion. Welcome home. Welcome to field consciousness. Welcome to recognizing what you actually are. You're finally ready, and the integration is permanent. The transformation is complete. The revelation is embodied. You are unified quantum field experiencing itself through temporary, localized perspective, now, always, permanently, and nothing will ever be the same.